guys, it's Rogway here, and it's time for another tutorial. In today's tutorial, we are looking at masking and keying in video, and specifically we are going to be using Adobe Premiere. Alright, this is a great piece of software. If you haven't become familiar with it, I strongly recommend, if you're into video editing, that you learn this program. And part of what we can do in Premiere, as with most advanced editing softwares, we can create keys and masks to combine different video elements together or still images together to create more interesting videos. And I'm going to show you what I mean. In this folder, I've got a bunch of videos that I take no credit for, first of all. These are videos that I found online, and they already have a, in this case, a model, 3D model, that has a Chroma key green back that we're going to use for our Chroma key. It could be any color. The reason we go with greens and blues because they're far away from skin tones. They're easier to use. Wow, that's loud. But we got all sorts of different things that we're going to combine here to create some new video. Again, I take no credit for the original video. This is stuff that I found, and simply I am showing you how to put it together to create new video. Alright, so let's get started. We're going to launch Premiere here. And Premiere takes a little while to load, so I've already preloaded it. But we're going to create a new project. And the thing about Premiere that I like is that it stores all of its components that it needs for the video in a folder for you, so you don't have to go looking for it after. So I'm going to give this a name, and I'm going to call it Chroma, I guess. That's fine. And I'm going to tell it to save the project folder to the desktop. So I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to call it Chroma. Again, create. We're going to select that folder. We're going to choose the Chroma folder, and now it tells us that all the project files that we're using for this are going to go into the Chroma folder on the desktop, which you can see right here. Okay, so everything else is good. I'm not going to talk too much about this right now. We're going to hit OK. I'm going to talk a little bit about the layout of Premiere itself. All right. First of all, let's start with the similarities that Premiere has with other video editing software. You can see along this corner here, this is called our program, where we can actually preview how our video is coming along. Down in the bottom left here, we have our timeline, which shows us what's going to happen in the video. Up here we have the option for our effects, our controls for our effects and our preferences. We can also look at individual clips here as well. And down here in the bottom corner, we've got effects and libraries, media browser. We've got all sorts of different things in here. We're going to be using effects quite a bit for this one. So I'm going to start by creating a sequence in my timeline that you can see. I'm just going to shrink this down a little bit so I can actually see my folder. And we're going to start with a still image. Now this still image is a picture of a farm, okay, and that's going to be our starting image. So I'm going to drag and drop that into my timeline right here. Now Premiere is excellent at supporting various file formats. Sometimes it gets a little sticky with the types of videos you use and that, but for the most part, everything we've got here will be supported. So this is a still image. It is a JPEG image, and right now it's sitting in here for approximately, well, 4.5 seconds or so. All right, and you can tell because you got your timeline up here. Now, one thing I want to mention is, like other programs, you have a zoom slider down here, so you can zoom in closer or zoom out further, depending on how long your project is. So I'm going to just increase this up to 5 seconds. Now, you saw what I did there? Again, I just kind of did it. But to trim your video or your image in this case, very easy. You just grab the end or the start and you can trim it however you wish. You'll also see over here that we've got our tracks. So we've got video tracks. We start with 3 video tracks by default. And we got 3 audio tracks, and we can add tons more if we want. We got a little eyeball here that can turn off or turn on the track that we're working on. But for right now, we're good. We're set up with this. Now, I'm going to start with the explosion file. And I'm going to drag and drop that into Premiere, but I'm going to drag it into our second video track. Okay, so you can see that what happens is we've got our farm JPEG, our picture that we started with. And we also now have explosion.mp4 sitting above that picture. Now this is important to note because Premiere gives you the ability to stack and layer video and media together, which is really where it gets its strength. Now, if we crop this a little bit, you can see that I'm zooming out. I basically want this video to start where the explosion does and end when the explosion ends. So what I can do is I can just basically pan through. Might be a little loud, sorry. But I can pan through, see that the explosion starts right there, pan through, and get to the end before this thing loops again, because it'll loop twice. So it ends right there. So at that point, I'm going to let go of my mouse, and I'm going to trim that video back to that point. You'll also notice that the audio track for it follows along. Obviously, it's going to match up. We're going to extend our farm JPEG so that it extends to the same amount of time that we have for that explosion. So far, so good. Now, you'll notice that it kind of just centers the video on top of one another here. And perhaps we want to change the position of that explosion. I'm going to double-click this, and then you'll see you get a little preview. Sorry, that's not what I want to do. I'm going to go to Effects Control. And we need to make sure we have Explosion selected. Alright, so I have Explosion selected, and we're going to go to the Motion part of the video effects. I'm going to just pull this little arrow down. You notice we got position, scale, rotation, all sorts of things happening here. Now watch what happens. If I go over position and I just click and slide my mouse left and right, I can change the horizontal position of that video. And on this one, I can change the vertical position of that video. So I can kind of position this explosion sort of in the field next to this farm. All right, just like that. I can also scale it here, smaller or bigger, depending on what I want to do with it. But I'm going to leave it at the size. I'll even bring it back up to 100, just so it looks as good as it was originally. There we go. Now, this is all good so far. We've got the video happening basically in the place where we want it. Very quick explosion. And it's happening very quick. But we've got this ugly green background. We've got our chroma key background still in there. Now, if you are shooting your own chroma key videos, you need some sort of a solid colored background, whether it's white or black or green or blue or whatever it might be. And we're going to go into our effects. We're going to go into video effects. We're going to go into keying, because keying is where we get our chroma selector. And I like Ultra Key. That's my favorite one. It's right here. It's the last one. And I'm going to simply drag it and drop it on top of the explosion MP4. Now you'll notice in our effects control now, we have a new addition, and that is Ultra Key. Every time you add a new effect, it's going to add to this list, and Ultra Key shows up. It's asking us right here, what is the color of our key? Right now it's set to black. We're going to click this little eyedropper, and we're simply going to click in the green of this video. Watch what happens. Premiere intelligently removes all of the green that we see in that background in that video. So let's just play it back. The way you do that, you go to the start and you can hit space bar, or you can hit play here, whatever. And there we go, we've got an explosion. Now it doesn't look super realistic, but it has merged that video excuse me, nicely with the original still image that we started with. Okay, so that's the first little part here. Now, what happens if we want to combine multiple videos together? Excuse me. I've got a video here called Forecast, and I'll just let that play a little bit. Basically, a typical sort of weather forecast you would see on television. And so that's going to be our next part of this tutorial. And it's okay, for the sake of this tutorial, it's not necessarily going to make a lot of sense. I'm going to just keep on building inside this project, so I'm going to put that video at the end here. So I'm going to drag and drop it. And there we go. Now it jumps into the news. Now you'll notice that the resolution of this video is different than the resolution we started with. So I'm going to click this, and if you remember from last time, I'm going to go and use the scale option. And I'm going to bring up the scale of that forecast so that it fills the frame. Let me just show you how that looks. Okay, fills the frame nicely. Perfect. Now, I've got this green screen video of Darth Vader. And here he is. Again, I take no credit for this. Just somebody in a Vader suit walking in a green screen room. I thought, why not have Darth Vader giving the news? Or, sorry, the weather. So we're going to drop Vader in. And I'm not at the beginning of the video. I'll explain why in a second. And simply to remove the green background, exactly the same as we did before, we're going to go to Effects. We're going to drag Ultra key onto Vader. We're going to use the little eyedropper, and we're going to click the green. And the background behind Vader disappears. Now it looks really weird with him just kind of plopped in the middle there. And he's basically over the entire title. So what we're going to do is we're going to take Vader. We're going to scale him up so he's bigger. We're going to adjust the position, the height of him a little bit. We'll bring that up. And we're also going to move him over to the right-hand side of our page. Okay? Or, sorry, of our working video here. Now, I want him to come in just as these first couple of information pieces come in. So right here, right there, I'm going to move the Vader start to that point. Now, if we play that back, now the cool thing about this is we can adjust the video position on the fly. So while this is playing back, I can be adjusting the position of Vader while we're watching the video. So this is pretty slick that we can adjust that as we preview our video as long as it's selected. So I'm just kind of tweaking it, moving them over. Again, I paused it here because it likes to lag otherwise. But you can get the position pretty much bang on, pretty much perfect. And you can get this nice alignment between the video and the lower video. So you can see how this becomes very powerful as you start to stack video together. All right, so I'm going to just trim back the forecast so that Vader and the forecast line up nicely. And like I said, that's an easy way of combining two videos together. All right, so for example, you're shooting a video, you need to look like you're outside, you're inside a studio with a green screen. You can pretend you're, outside, and then you can take out the green and put in a video of some outdoor shot afterwards. And this has been done for ages, and it's continued to be used quite a bit in the motion picture industry. Next, we are going to look at how to create masks. Okay, so here we're going to combine both keying and masks to create a layered video, which will give us a really nice composition using multiple videos. Okay, so I'm going to just zoom out a little bit so I can do this. I'm going to start with this video here called Jungle, and you can hear the rain. Maybe you can. You got some thunder. I thought this is a great scene. It doesn't move. It doesn't pan, it doesn't zoom or anything. It's just a still scene of this jungle scene. So I'm going to drag and drop it in as my base video layer. I'm bringing it into video 1. Okay, and I'm going to just expand my Premiere a little bit so I can see it a little bit better. Okay, so my jungle starts at that point. Now again, we got a problem. The resolution doesn't match that of the original, so we can click this, bring up the scale, and just get that to fill our viewing area nicely. Okay, and so there we've got our jungle scene. Now, when I looked at this, I thought, man, this is like Jurassic Park, except it doesn't have any dinosaurs, so maybe we can add a dinosaur. Now, don't get the wrong impression here or think that we're going to make Jurassic Park here. No, we're not going to make anything close, but at least you can see how we can get those sort of effects. We have a dinosaur, like I showed before, walking across a green screen. This is 3D modeled and rendered. And we're going to drop him in. Okay, so I'm going to put him into the video somewhere shortly after the jungle scene starts. So I'll just kind of play that back. And you'll notice when the dinosaur comes in, it's horrible. Got that ugly green background happening. The size of the guy is not right. So we're going to select dinosaur. We're going to zoom in with scale. We're going to enlarge it so that by the end of the dinosaur video, he's walking right off the screen, just like that. So he starts somewhere over there, and he ends somewhere over here. It's good practice to trim your videos down so that they line up. So I'm going to take that jungle MP4 and I'm going to trim the back end off. So now the dinosaur and the jungle are the same length. But you'll notice that the dinosaur's green screen is covering up the entire jungle right now. We're going to use Ultra Key once again to drop it onto dinosaur. Use the eyedropper. Click. And now we've got this dinosaur that's walking in from the side and exiting on the other side. But there is a major problem. If you look, the dinosaur is floating on top of the leaves that are supposed to be in the foreground. Also, when he gets to this point where he's walking on a path, his foot is in front of the path, and it just doesn't look real. It looks like he's floating. I'll play it back so you can see. He just kind of floats over the entire video because that's all we did. We just took a video, pasted it on top, cut out the green screen. That's what you end up with, is a floating dinosaur on whatever background you put it onto. Now let's say we want to tell Premiere that he needs to be behind these parts of that original video. How would we do that? Well, my technique, it may be right or wrong, I'm not sure, but I'm going to make a duplicate of the jungle MP4. And on the Mac, this is really simple to do. You hold the Option key and you drag it up to Video 3 layer. And now we have a copy of the jungle over top of the dinosaur. So the dinosaur is sandwiched between the two. When I click this video that's at the highest layer, I'm going to go into opacity, which is right here in my adjustments. And you notice these three icons right here. This is how you can create a mask in Premiere. So I prefer the pen tool, and basically all I'm going to do is draw the area using the pen tool of where I don't want the dinosaur to be able to be seen, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to start along the edge of this path, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to keep clicking to create a mask that the dinosaur basically cannot go in front of. Alright, so I'm telling it, look, these trees all need to be in front of the dinosaur. So I'm continuing around. Now, one important thing about masks, you need to go all the way around. You need to go all the way around and end up where you started. You'll get this little symbol, and you click, and now you got a mask. Now, let's see if it works. Okay, so we've created a mask on the jungle. Now, if I play this back, there we go. The dinosaur now is behind the mask that we've created. Now, if I click off of it, I'm going to show you a few other options in a second. But if I basically select anything else, it will disappear. And I can preview that by playing it back. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Just take a quick look. And we're going to fix up a few things. And here comes the dinosaur. And as you can see, it's nicely masked here to look like he is behind those bushes rather than in front like the original. Same with down here on the path. His foot is now behind that little barricade. Again, we could go in closely with our magnifying glass and just clean that up, make it super accurate. But for the sake of the tutorial, we're just kind of doing it just to show the technique here. And at this point right here, his his foreground foot is behind this bush. And this back foot has now stepped out of the mask. So it looks like he's come from behind this bush into our scene. And I'm not saying that it looks super realistic, but if you get a really nice mask going, you can get a very realistic result. I want to show you one thing about masks. First of all, you can only have one mask at a time. So if you create another mask, you should delete one and pick which one that you want to actually use. You'll also notice on the mask there's this little pull-out. It's a little circle pull-out. And if you pull that, you can adjust the softness of the edge of your mask. So if I feel like those leaves look a little too harsh, I can give it a little more softness, just like that. I can also do that here on the mask feather. Okay, same setting. And what this will do is basically just soften the edge so that the mask is less noticeable. All right, so watch what happens. Again, I've adjusted it. I'm going to go back. And at the point where he comes out of the bush, you're going to see a much softer edge here. Okay? I don't know how well that shows, but he is merged coming out of those leaves a lot better than he was before. Now you got to be careful with how much feathering you do, because now you can see here this doesn't really look realistic. Alright, so we may have to tweak that a bit. Maybe it's set too high, so I can always go back, can pull down my feather a little bit, maybe bring it down to 10 or so, and I'll live with that for now. Now, one thing about mixing video together, as you probably notice, is that it's raining in this scene. And when we look at this dinosaur, because he's just kind of been pasted in here, none of the rain, for example, falls on him, and it doesn't look very realistic. If you look, he's very clean the whole time he passes through this scene. We don't have any rain, so again, it looks like he's still pasted in here. So what we're going to do to fix that is we're going to take the rain file, and this is just a green screen of some rain falling, and we're going to put that into this scene at the very top. So now we've created a fourth video layer. I'm just going to select that, and I'm going to trim it back, and I'm going to enlarge it. Same exact technique. Select it, go to scale, enlarge it so it's the size of the screen that you're working on. We're going to go Ultra key. Going to drop it on there. Going to click the little eyedropper. We're going to select the green. And on objects like this, you will just barely see the rain. Now, I'm going to turn off some eyes here so we can actually see what the rain is doing. And we don't really see the rain very noticeably. So what we can do is we can change the setting of the key to maybe a more relaxed key. I don't know how much of a difference that shows on your screen, but if I go to default, just look in this area here. If I switch it to relaxed, you see those droplets much better. Aggressive, it's going to be gone completely, and you can customize it as well. But I'm going to go relaxed on this because that will kind of loosen up the chroma key setting a little bit. So now we can see those droplets much better. And if we turn on those layers with the dinosaur and the lower jungle, the upper jungle, and I play it back, you will see now that we have raindrops passing in front of the dinosaur to give a much more realistic result. All right, so as you can tell, we can make a very complex video pretty simply by stacking our effects one on top of another. We can use this sort of technique to create things like picture-in-picture effects or masking effects where, you know, you might have a YouTube channel and you want it to have a certain layout, like a user interface. There's a whole bunch of uses for your position and scale and masking in general. So I strongly encourage you use this for a bunch of your projects. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to export the video. It's going to take a little bit, so I'm going to come back once it's done. I'm going to show you the final piece to export a video from Premiere. File, export, okay, and we're going to export media. It's going to load. We can set our video size, our video quality, what type of file it's going to be. I'm just going to go with QuickTime, and it's going to export to the folder, the project folder that was created here on the desktop called Chroma, and I'm going to just go export. I'm not going to queue it, explain that in another video, but I'm going to just export it. Here we go. Okay, so Premiere has rendered the video. We're going to go to Chroma, our folder, and you'll see here that we've created a QuickTime file. I'm going to play it in its full, high-res, beautiful version for you guys to see, and then we're going to quickly talk about it. All right, so here we go. Okay, so those are 3 different techniques to creating keys and masks in Premiere. First one, we used a still image with a video on top. All right, so that's a still image with a video. Second one, we used a video with a video. And for the third one, and the most complex, we used a video with a mask and chroma key, multiple elements here to create this. Anyways, I hope this was helpful. I hope it helps you improve your own projects. Till next time, thanks for watching.